I have come up with this idea. It's a mindset shift that I would like to propose to targeted parents.
Some of my first memories of my childhood were of my mother telling me that my father didn't love me.
I felt closest to my mom when we were talking crap about my dad.
If I rejected my dad, I felt like I was getting my mom's approval.
Question, do I really know this person? Are they actually who my alienator said they were?
I had this overwhelming sense of having to protect my mom.
In her mind, she truly believes everything she's saying, that my dad was a terrible person all the time.
I did start asking questions, and I did want to fact check.
It's time my life to bring Teletubbies in the rain.
Welcome to the Anti-Alienation Project, or welcome back if you're new here. I'm Maddie, and I talk about all things related to parental alienation here on my project. A little bit about me is that I was alienated from my dad for 20 years. I'm the oldest of 5 children, and I was the only one targeted. I figured everything out last year. It's been a roller coaster of emotions, to say the least, but now I'm pretty dedicated to speaking out about this form of abuse. Today's video is particularly geared towards targeted parents. Targeted parents seem to be walking on a tightrope. They seem very concerned with saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, anything that could make their child reject them forever or make the situation worse. Doing a lot of thinking about this and just looking back at my own experience with my dad and what he's done right over the years, I have come up with this idea. It's a mindset shift that I would like to propose to targeted parents. When I was a teenager, I heard this quotation that really has stuck with me, and it's expectation leads to disappointment. Now, I'm not saying that all expectations are bad. In this context, I really do think that expectations do lead to disappointment. Here's what I mean by that. And please bear with me, because I think this really can be a positive mindset shift for a lot of targeted parents if you can understand how it will help you. Imagine that you have your phone and you're about to send your alienated child a text. As a targeted parent, I'm sure there's so much anxiety and dread and hope that they'll respond, and you want every word to be perfect. You might be really anxious about saying or doing anything that could make the situation worse. Understandably so, by the way. I would feel that way too. Usually, I think when parents ask me for advice or what they should write in a text or a letter, they're doing so with the goal of getting something back, getting something out of the exchange. For example, they want to send a letter or a text that will make their child respond to them, that will get their child to want to see them, that will get their child back. What I'm proposing is that is a mindset that ultimately harms the parent, because the expectations lead to disappointment, especially when it comes to alienated children. I mean, these are the hardest cases to crack. It's so hard to learn the truth as an alienated child, and as a targeted parent, it's really hard to get your child to see the truth. Here's what I would propose in that example with the texting. So you get your phone out, you want to write a message. Instead of imagining how your child will respond to the text and whether or not it will get them to want a relationship with you more or less, I would try to ground yourself in a couple things first. Number 1, remember that you are still their parent. You are their parent who's trying to protect them, who loves them, who desperately wants to have interaction with them. That being said, when you write a message to your child, when you write a letter to your child, when you debate whether or not to drive over to see your child, all of these things, I think, will be much more effective on the parent's mental health and less detrimental when the child rejects the parent, if the parent can ground themselves in the simple mindset shift. Try to shift your mindset from, I'm going to write them this message because I want to talk to them, I want them to reach out to me, I want to get them back. Instead, you can shift it to something like, I want to express my love regardless of whether or not they respond. I want to send them this message, and I'm sending it because I want to express my love and expect nothing in return. I know this might sound counterintuitive, but If you go into all interactions with your alienated child expecting nothing in return, then you will be expressing the most selfless and unconditional form of parental love. The key thing to remember, I think, is that expectation leads to disappointment. The reason why it's important to have little or no expectations when interacting with your alienated child, particularly your severely alienated child, it's twofold. Number one, I believe this is the best way for targeted parents to preserve their own mental health and protect themselves from spiraling negatively. Because when your child responds with hatred or anger or fear, whatever it might be, that's going to affect you negatively. So to have no expectations for their response whatsoever is probably going to protect you and keep you in a more positive mindset. Number two, I've often said that parental alienation is the truest test of unconditional love. Conditional love, I think most of us know, is expecting something in return. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Unconditional love is the giving and sacrificing of oneself without any expectations in return. Is this easy to do? Absolutely not. If you go into it writing a message that you feel good about, that you are proud of, sending it with absolutely no expectations, I really think that would be the healthiest way for targeted parents to be able to continue and live prosperous, wonderful lives without having the prospect or the thought of interacting with their child cause a wave of negative emotions. Honestly, I think this is what my dad did. He didn't have expectations when it came to our relationship. After a certain age, I think that he just accepted that it was what it was. He was going to keep going. He was going to do his best. And hopefully one day I would learn the truth. But I think he knew that all that he could control were his actions, his words, his efforts. He couldn't control my responses, and he said to me that he didn't take it personally. He learned to not take it personally. If your child responds negatively, which honestly might happen with an alienated child, one thing that you can do, another mindset shift that can be really helpful, is to literally view the anger and hatred they're spewing towards you, view it as something that is coming out of the mouth of your ex. Because that is truly the case. Because they're using your child as a microphone. But that message, those stories, those claims, those threats, those insults, they were not contrived in the mind of your child. They were fed to your child. It can be really helpful, I think, for targeted parents to view their child as a pawn, a weapon, a microphone. They're being used, manipulated, brainwashed, and abused by your ex-partner in a similar way to how your partner is abusing you. They're using your child as a conduit to send hatred your way. And this conduit, your child, is experiencing severe psychological abuse. So if you can tap into the empathy for your child in those moments, that would be incredible. Listen, I don't expect targeted parents to have the motivation to do that when their child is hurting them so bad. I don't expect targeted parents to have the knowledge of what goes on behind closed doors to be able to realize that their child truly believes the lies and doesn't know the truth. I'll say that from personal experience and in talking to so many child survivors now, across the board, when you find out the truth, it's hard to live with yourself. It really is. So my two takeaways, I would just like to encourage parents to at least think about, try out, maybe see how it works for you, and let me know in the comments if you've already done any of this. It's just the two mindset shifts, which is number one, expectation leads to disappointment. To have no expectations when engaging with your alienated child, reaching out to your alienated child. The second mindset shift, just to summarize, is that you can imagine when your child says these hurtful things, I hate you, your sperm donor, calls you by your first name, whatever it may be. Imagine that you have your little diabolical ex-partner scheming on their shoulder, and they're whispering these things into their ear, and your child is saying it because they're made to say it by their parent on their shoulder. And you know from personal experience, the hatred and vitriol that is in that pathological parent. That's where it's coming from. You really can give yourself permission to view everything that they say as coming straight from your ex. They're just using your child as a microphone to amplify the message. I hope this video is helpful for some people. If you think that this is something you might be wanting to implement, let me know in the comments how it goes for you. That's all for this video. If you like what I'm doing here, please subscribe and hit the like button to get it in the algorithm. Thank you everybody for watching and giving me a little bit of time out of your day to listen to my message. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.